always less corn and more hell.
Less than 5 months after St. Louis, the People's Party had organized sufficiently to hold a national convention. Meeting in Omaha, Nebraska in July of 1892, the first order of business was to formally adopt a platform.
The Omaha platform, the Populist Party platform of 1892, was striking in that it was the most radical statement of principles of any more or less major American political party. It called for the nationalization of the railroads. They recommended the same thing regarding telephones and telegraph. These were emerging institutions, but they thought that the major networks of transportation and communication, because they were so vital, especially to farmers, shouldn't be in the control of private interests, but should be in the control of all the people. The Populists at Omaha also called for a graduated income tax, this at a time when there was no federal income tax.
They were calling for direct election of U.S. senators. They were calling for the sub-treasury loan program, which was basically a farmer subsidization program. And they were also asking for an expansion of currency.
As long as the money supply was constricted by how much gold was in the treasury, that was going to be a problem for the populists. So they wanted to have the currency based on silver as well as on gold, which would force an inflation of the money supply and would make it easier to pay back debts. And also, there were several planks in the Omaha platform which were appeals to urban workers who clearly were not going to like the idea of inflation on the food that they had to buy and the clothing they had to buy, for example. There were demands to support labor union organizing, to lift injunctions on unions. They also supported the 8-hour day.
Populists recognized that to avoid being marginalized as a regional party, they needed to find allies in the Northeast.
It was a difficult reach because their heart wasn't in with the working classes of the cities. They had always thought that the cities were somehow corrupt, they were morally inferior to the heartland. So when the Populists reached out, and as they did in their political platforms, to the industrial working classes, they were doing their best, but they never could quite make it work. They had a little bit greater success, at least initially, reaching out across racial lines.
The Populists basically say to African Americans, look, we're in the same boat. We're suffering because of what's happening to agriculture in the South and elsewhere, and that if we succeed, that everybody is going to benefit, so vote for us.
African Americans in some ways saw an opportunity in the People's Party. They didn't need to have white folks say that they weren't racist. They were less concerned about people's purity, what they thought, what their intentions were. But what they did, and the thing that they were willing to do, was go out and build a third party with black people.
By telling the truth, I have converted to our political ideas every colored man and woman in Jasper and Newton counties. I've converted at least 50% of my white auditors.
This was the great nightmare. If you think about Southern politics in the 19th century, a lot of it is built around the ability of big landowners to get the support of small landowners. What happens in the 1890s is that this alliance begins to fracture, and they're very frightened, not only because it's a biracial coalition, but because the kind of demands that they're raising challenge the economic framework and relationships that white landowners and merchants depend upon.
And it didn't take long for the populist opponents in the South to play the race card against the populists, appealing to white farmers on grounds of racial solidarity.